Hello, and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I'm Valerie Green from CoachValerieGreen.com. And today I am really excited to bring you Mayan, Tran, and Angus Scott. Hi, guys.
Hi, Valerie.
So good to be back with
I know. They interviewed me for a summit they were doing a while ago, and they have such wonderful chemistry together. I'm just so excited to, see this topic because we're going to be talking about the subtle saboteurs, how your energy may be repelling love. And then, of course, we're going to learn how to transform your energy and become a magnet for the right partner, which is
absolutely
definitely what they specialize in. I will read you a little bit more about them for those of my audience who might not know about them. The show, of course, is meant to bring you the best teachers in that mind, body, and spirit connection. And this is what they specialize in, is really going deep. We were kind of geeking out the last time about all the modalities that they practice, such as NLP and a variety of other ones. And that's the first place they go, is they help people to undo these energetic blocks that make all of us, myself included. I think we all have these saboteurs, these sabotaging patterns that were based in survival from childhood. I'm sure that we'll go into, because
right.
everybody, all good coaches and healers look at that. And Angus and Mayan are no exception, because they have a very unique system that incorporates all these modalities together to remove these energetic leaks. And then their clients walk away really being cleared, having let go of their past traumatic experiences and limiting beliefs about love, and having a clear vision about what they want to attract in relationship, and feeling confident to attract healthy love, and are attracted to partners that have the qualities that really make us feel fulfilled. And so this is what Mayan and Angus specialize in. So I was just really inspired when they interviewed me to interview them and have them come on the show and explain their wonderful transformative method with us. So welcome.
Awesome. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And so first, of course, I'd love to hear, what are these energetic leaks that you're talking about? And how can they really deter our chances of finding love? Let's just start there.
Yeah, well, everybody has their own, right? So it's not like they are going to be the same for everyone. So we get to play detective a little bit, and it really can show up in many different ways. One of my favorite stories, if I can put you on the spot, you had a client who loved Home Alone. And let's just talk about that for a minute, because I think that's a good example. It's really descriptive of how she didn't know that something that she believed was showing up and actually keeping love away.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the ways that we can have energetic leaks is through our words, the things that we say that actually reflect our deep subconscious beliefs. So for this specific client that you're referring to, she, growing up, loved the movie Home Alone. And if you've seen it, you remember Macaulay Culkin as the kid, when he's all annoyed that there's so many people in the house. And in one of the scenes, he screams, he's like, "When I grow up and I get married, I'm living alone." And that was like one of her favorite quotes. In fact, she has a t-shirt that has that quote, like still to this day, decades later, she still has this t-shirt. And I was actually sharing with her, during one of our coaching sessions, I had shared with her one of the things I used to say when I was younger, and I had a lot of baggage around kids and just fears around not wanting to be a parent. And I would blurt out to my friends, I would say, kids are like an 18-year to lifetime sentence, like as a joke, but also not as a joke, right? There was some truth in that for me and in my beliefs. And so I was sharing that with her, and it triggered her to remember this specific Home Alone incident. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I still have this t-shirt." And, to give you context of where she's at, she was separated for 5 years and was in this standstill where she wasn't moving forward with divorce, but also wasn't getting back together. So she was literally living in their home by herself, even though she was married technically.
Wow. Mhm.
Right. So when she realized that, she was like, wow, like this has got to shift. And so having that pivotal moment of, okay, you know, I don't want this. So she donated her t-shirt and has now moved forward with her divorce. So it's on its way to being finalized, and she's moving on to her next chapter. But
Yeah.
words is one of those ways that, you know, can show up as an energetic leak, because the things that we say really reflect what's going on the inside.
Yeah.
So
Another one would be spaces. Uh, so like in your space, I was on a phone call. It was actually a face-to-face. I think we were FaceTiming with a client one time. And as she's walking through her house, we're having this conversation. I'm like, hey, I want you to, because I could see as she was walking, like some of the artwork in her house. I'm like, I want you to actually walk me through your house and flip your camera around, because I'm seeing some things that I think are clues. And so she did, and she walked me through her house. And I think she had 5 different pieces of artwork where it was a single female. Like one of them was a tree with a rope swing, but it was just a little girl on the rope swing, nobody pushing her. And then there was like another one with a painting of just a woman. And then there were 5 different paintings with just a single female in there. And then even in her backyard, she has a beautiful house, super successful lady, has a dock that goes out over the lake. On her dock, she has one Adirondack chair. Like,
Wow.
there's no space for a man in your life. She's giving off these energetic clues of, I'm just a single female. I don't need a man. And so there are lots of little different clues that everybody gives off their own different ones based upon their own belief systems. Part of what we do is just play detective and figure out what clues are you giving off that we can help figure out where the block is, and then get to the root of that.
Yeah, that is really powerful, that both the words we say to ourselves and the way that we organize our space are those clues, are those indicators of our beliefs. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm always going to be single. There's no room in my life. Or a lot of people tell themselves all the good ones are taken, or I'm too not enough of fill in the blank, right? And so
Yeah.
it sounds like you guys really help to uncover those clues, kind of like the detective, to take a look at, like, wait a minute, might this be what's blocking you? Because, you know, we might say that we want to meet somebody, but then if
Yes.
our words or actions are indicative of others, then how do you how do you basically help somebody find those clues?
Yeah. So it starts with a lot of questions, right? And we don't have a particular script. A lot of what we do is organic, where we just have a conversation and see what comes out. But our ears are attuned to what they're saying and what they're not saying. And so, and our eyes too, because one of my favorite stories was one of her clients who in her bedroom had a single, it's said better when you say she only had one nightstand. Like, you've got a bedroom and you only have one nightstand. Like,
one nightstand.
what do you, right? Like, there's no room for a man in her mind, even not just in her room, but like in her mind, there's not a place for a man. So we're into asking those questions and looking for those clues wherever they may pop up.
Yeah, I mean, one of those questions I'm sure you ask your clients too is like, what's in the way? You know, what do you believe is in the way of you creating what you want in terms of love and relationships, or just in life in general, and listening to what that answer is. And if they're saying, well, there just aren't any men in my area, like in my area or in my city, that is such a common thinking belief, right? It's like, oh, I just don't live in a town where there are good men and there are men who are come out of relationships every day. Like, you don't know that, right? But to have this blanket statement that there are no good men in my city, like that's a clue that when there's a universal universal qualifier, then, you know, it's reflecting your belief, your perspective on the world. So
Yeah, exactly. When someone's saying a generalization,
yeah,
there are always, or there are no, or I am to this, or I am not enough that, or
Right.
right. And I think we all will say that to ourselves when we feel discouraged and frustrated, and we're going to throw our hands up because, you know, a lot of people then, when, and especially with online dating these days, I know a lot of people get easily frustrated, especially if they live in an area that's not a major metropolitan area where you can't go out to a lot of meetups and meet people. Um, a lot of times people will throw their hands up and say, I'm so frustrated. And instead of going to what's wrong with me, which isn't helpful either, that's another qualifier.
right.
But they will make up these beliefs like there are no good men in my city, there are, you know, or there, I'm too much, I'm not enough, so that they don't have to feel such intense frustration in the process. Have you guys encountered that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, there's like two sides to that. And to address the one that you're talking about there, when we're so focused on the outcome, you know, I'm online dating for the specific reason of I want to find my person and make it happen yesterday. Like when we have that level of anticipation, it borders on desperation. So even if you were to meet somebody, like your energy is not really giving off the right vibration of somebody who meets you and it's like, oh, you're just so easy to get along with. And if you're coming into it with that angst, that urgency, that can subtly push away. Again, that's why we call it subtle sabotage. You can push away somebody versus if you're just saying, you know what, I'm going to be online dating, but I'm committed to just going out and seeing how many amazing people I can meet. And if you have that attitude and you're just going to go out and just have a good time, and I'm not talking about going out and sleeping around and I'm not saying anything, but if you literally go to every interaction and say, this is probably an amazing person and I'm just going to see what happens. And no matter what, I'm going to have a great time tonight. He's taking me out or we're going out, we're going to do these things. I'm going to make sure that I have a good time. If you do that, you win no matter what. But not only do you win no matter what, the energy that you're giving off is so much different than the I'm checking you. I'm asking you questions to figure out, do you meet my list? Are you good enough? Should I keep talking to you? Like, can you see the energy is just not like nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to be interrogated to figure out if they're good enough to measure up to you. Like, please, if you shift that energy, it's going to welcome a different type of interaction. So yeah, you might live in a place that has a fewer amount of potential partners. And if you're going into it with that energy, you're pushing away even the ones that you could potentially meet.
Do you want to share about the bees and the flower analogy? I think that's a great.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I stumbled across something. It's you can find it on YouTube. I highly recommend you look it up. David Attenborough is talking about the bees and the flowers, and it's only like a minute and 15 seconds, and it's super powerful. But he shows, and I'm going to nerd out on you, so bear with me.
Yeah.
He shows a little node being stabbed into a flower, like a little needle into the stem of a flower, and then that needle has a wire hooked to a speaker, and that speaker is actually giving off the sound that the flower is making. So that means that the flower has a vibration, and the node and the speaker just tell us what the vibration is. What he points out is that the flower is grounded, and so the fact that it's grounded and its roots are there, it means that it has a negative charge. Okay. Bees, because they're flying and not grounded, actually pick up positive ions, giving them a positive charge. So bees, when they fly and go to that flower, we all think that they collect the pollen, like and stick it to themselves. But the fact is it's magnetic. When they land on the flower and go up to the pollen, their positive charge and the negative charge cause it to stick. So they're not actually busily collecting the flower or the pollen. They just literally land and it's a transference because
comes positive. Them, right.
Yeah. But what's even more interesting is that when that happens, when that magnetization happens and the pollen is gone, the flower stops making vibration.
Wow.
The charge is gone. So now they're both neutral and the flower stops making noise. The next thing that's super interesting is that all the other bees apparently have an apparatus to sense that vibration from flowers, and no other bees will go to that flower again until it's ready and giving off that vibration again that says, I have pollen, you should come visit me. We as people give off vibration. We're just not attuned with our conscious, like prefrontal cortex on what vibrations people are giving out, but energetically we get it. We've been in that room where it's weird, it's uncomfortable. We've been around people who it's just like, they just feel negative. We are giving off vibrations all the time. And if we're not aware of what that vibration is, then you're subtly sabotaging every interaction that you could have. You could be right in the same grocery store as your ideal partner, but your energy could be pushing them away and you don't even know it.
That is such a good analogy. Because it flips it, rather than saying, like you mentioned, to look for something on the outside, and then you're gonna think it's out of your control if you don't meet someone, or there aren't good people in my city, or it's so hard, or etc., as opposed to thinking, oh, it's how I show up and my intention that matters. But of course that's easier said than done. So how do you take somebody who is feeling so frustrated and they're at the end of their rope, and they're thinking that there's no good people in their city, and help them to see that it's about shifting their vibe and their intention?
All right, so I'll handle this first, and then I'm going to hand it off to her. But so to me, there's two ways to do this. And the first way is how I spent the first 39 years of my life as a trier, like consciously deciding that I'm going to be the flower, that I'm going to give off the right vibration all the time. And hopefully the bee's going to come across, and I'm going to try, and I'm going to willpower this into existence.
Yes, and that does sound exhausting.
It works until you get tired,
right?
Until you get frustrated, until you get hungry, until you get distracted, and then it stops working.
Right.
The second part of that is you can change your identity on the inside. And that's the work that we do. If you're tired of trying, you don't have to try. You can actually do a few little things that change you from the inside out, and then you don't have to try anymore. You want to add to that?
Yeah, that was actually how I was going to respond, is consciously or subconsciously, right? One of the illustrations or examples we like to use is like when you talk about your story of how you were trying so hard to make changes, it's like you were running on a treadmill really hard and not realizing that treadmill was on the back of a truck bed going the opposite direction. Right. So you're like running so hard and you're not going anywhere. You're not going towards where you want to go. So that's like the conscious way, right? Like we can reframe, yes, all those things help. And to make lasting change that feels easy, that feels natural, we really need to go deeper at the subconscious level.
Yeah.
Change your identity, change your beliefs. With our clients, we help them identify what I call web of untruths. So it's not just one belief that you have, it's a whole system of beliefs that work together, right? That create your reality. And so when you're experiencing like there are no good men out there, or they don't treat me well, or they don't give me attention, or any of those associated beliefs, it's because something happened, like you mentioned, in childhood. And from that experience, you decided at a very young age that this is how I make of the world. Like, this is how I make sense of the world, that I can't trust men, or I can't, I have to depend on myself. There are no good people out there that I can trust, etc. So we've created this goggle, essentially, we're looking through the world through. And now everything from that experience, from that age, has validated our beliefs, and we keep recreating the same experiences for ourselves. So unless we actually address what happened and shift that, it's going to keep, recreating for ourselves.
If I can just tag onto that, because she just said something like that's super powerful that I think most people will miss. A lot of people will be like, well, it's not from my childhood, I don't have anything there. Okay. And what if everything that has happened since then is just validating something that you already believed? So you think that it's what's happened in your most recent relationships. You think that it's happened, since junior high, that boy, that girl who said the thing. It doesn't matter what the things are that you've experienced. experienced until you realize that your eyes are attuned, your brain is attuned to validating its own belief system. So you're looking for evidence to confirm your bias. Like, look up confirmation bias. It's what your brain does. It's constantly looking to be right. So whatever it is that you believe, you're trying to always find evidence to validate that. So you're right. That is your experience. Whatever your life is, you're right. If you are tired of being right and want something different, then talk to us or talk to Valerie, because you're right. You're right. You can either be right or you can choose to do something different and be happy. But that's your choice, is that your brain is constantly trying to validate it and be right. And if you're tired of being right and you want to have a different result, you get to do something different than you've always done.
What's the question that you have been asking lately?
Okay. So this is just a mental exercise that I play with myself, and it seems to work when I play it with other people. So I'll just ask you, Valerie, what is it that right now, as of this moment, you believe that isn't true?
Well, I mean, we're all coaches. So I would say nothing I believe is true. I believe the only thing that's actually true is I am. I think everything else is not really true, because not absolutely anyway. So probably the wrong person to ask. But
you might be psychoanalyzing the question, but if you operate your life based upon beliefs. And
well,
if you
no,
knew
it's
that
true.
one of
I
those
mean,
things,
I'll give you a belief that I think a lot of my clients say, and then we can kind of play with it, because I think that this is a really good point. And it's hard to exemplify how beliefs are a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's hard to understand how whatever you think, you're right. That is kind of a hard concept to verify. But let's say I believe that I'm not wanted, right? That when someone really gets to know me, they won't want me. So the question is then, how am I going to act around people if I believe that? And then that action becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that's where you're going, right?
it's actually not where I'm going, but I like that. I like where you're going with it. Yeah. But my point is,
yes, let's hear your point.
If you knew that something you believed wasn't true, wouldn't you change that belief?
I mean, I would. I think the thing is, though, that just getting to the point where we're willing to admit that what I'm believing isn't true is very scary. Because if I really do believe that whenever someone really gets to know me, they'll reject me. Like, if I really believe that, I probably don't want to know for sure whether it's true, because that's too scary, Gotcha. So I think, right? I mean, that's how I think a lot of people feel. So the question is, how do you help people work through those beliefs?
Yeah. So this is a question that I ask to those people who are just sure that they're right. Is there anything that you believe that isn't correct? And if most people are like, no, like, obviously I believe them because I believe that they're correct. But if you were the only human who had everything correct in what you believed, like, your results would be pretty amazing. Like, you'd be, whether you like them or not, you'd be up there with Elon Musk and Albert Einstein and some of the world's greatest minds creating awesome things because everything you believe is correct. But you can't, like, by definition, you can't know what your blind spots are.
Yep.
You don't know what you believe that isn't true. So what are you believing right now? Like some of those questions that you just asked, like, what if I'm unlovable? Like, are you sure that you're right about that? Because there are other things that you believe that are true that aren't true. You just don't know. And so playing the game and getting somebody to admit, I don't know what I don't know, or I don't know what I believe that's true that isn't true, at least helps us kind of crack open the box to say, maybe we should peek inside and see if what's operating, if the belief system that you're operating on is fully based in fact, or if it is really just something that's holding you back.
Right. Exactly.
Conversation earlier. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just validating you because I think that we walk around, a lot of people do walk around thinking that their beliefs are true, and therefore they're not going to question their assumptions. They're just going to take actions based on
Yeah.
their beliefs rather than telling themselves, oh, I don't know if that's not true. I don't know if that's true. Okay, well, then let me follow the advice that, my relationship coaches are giving me and see what happens.
Yeah. I had a question. I had a conversation earlier with a client earlier today, and she asked me because she just went through a divorce a couple months back, and she's been really like today. She admitted like it would be nice to go on a date, but then she followed that up by saying, "You know me. Like, am I really ready to date? Like, should I really be thinking about dating right now?" And I had to ask her. I'm like, I need to know, is this
Yeah.
Jane talking to me, or is this the harshest critic that lives in Jane's brain? Like, who is talking, who is asking this question?
Mhm.
And I let her go inside and find it. And she's like, yeah, it is the critic. And I play a little game. I'm like, what is that critic's name? Like, give that person a name, because I love talking to somebody like, oh, hey, your brain has you and it has this other person who is, you know, talking down to you, berating you, telling you all the things that you haven't done, all the things you don't deserve. And when she realized that it's that person that's telling her that she doesn't deserve to go on a date, it's not that she doesn't want to. She really does want to, but she has been beating herself up and doesn't think that she deserves it. And so,
Mhm.
what are those things that that other critic voice is saying to you that you're listening to because you think it's your voice?
Yep.
And you're buying into it because it's you've listened to it for so long that you think it's got your best interest in mind. You think it's protecting you, and it is trying to. That's where it came from. Was it was trying to protect you. But it's also, I call it the training wheels.
Mm-hmm.
It is the training wheels that are preventing you from falling over, but it is also the training wheels that are preventing you from having any fun on your bicycle. Like, you are not going to get up to full speed. You're not going to get to go on a road course or go mountain biking, because with training wheels, that's not going to work. So yes, it's protecting you from falling over, but you're not going to fall over anymore. You're not going to get to go where you want to go with those training wheels on. You get to release that. Stop listening to that voice, recognize it, shut it down, and thank it for what it's trying to do, and tell it that you've moved on beyond that.
Yeah. I think the training wheels, I've never heard the training wheels analogy before. I think that's a brilliant one because training wheels are necessary to help you not fall off the bike when you're learning. But
Yeah.
then if you want an adult experience, we'll say,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
you can't be using training wheels if you're an adult, I mean,
Exactly.
obviously if you're an adult learning to ride a bike, fine, but but if
True.
you want like real intimacy, you can't use the same survival skills that you use to survive,
Yeah.
maintaining an attachment relationship in childhood.
Right.
If your parents had a really exemplary relationship that you want to emulate, then we can probably use the survival skills from childhood, but for the rest of us who don't want to have the same kind of relationship our parents had, use the same survival skills from childhood, it won't really work. And so those are the blind spots.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and also kind of building off of that bicycle, learning to ride a bike analogy. Now, they've developed bikes where you're not even using training wheels. I don't know what they're called, like the gliders or whatever. Like
E-bikes or what?
No, so it's a bike, but it doesn't have pedals. So you're using your feet, right, to kind of get yourself started, and then you lift your feet up. So kids, they learn to balance,
right,
but they're they're closer to the ground where they can just stop with their feet. So it allows them to learn how to, stay balanced and go faster without the training wheels, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like that's an upgraded version. Like, we didn't have that growing up. Learning how to, like, I definitely had training wheels, but it applies because, like, client Jane, right? Like, she can go out there and get started slowly, right? She can put herself out there and risk failing and falling, but if she's lower to the ground, it's not going to be as catastrophic or painful. So that could be another perspective around that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because the first perspective is like, what beliefs do we still have from childhood that we needed to survive that don't work anymore, that need to be updated? Now, the analogy Mayan's bringing in is also, what support did we not have in childhood that,
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of times when people come from the belief, I'm not ready yet, that belief was created in childhood because we didn't have enough support. And so, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, but when a client tells me that, usually I say, oh, okay, well, how will you know you're ready? And usually it's a belief or a skill set that they don't feel that they have. And once they learn that skill set, which is also part of, I'm sure, what you do with your clients, is teach them the skills of not interrogating somebody, but asking them fun questions to see if, they share your values and vision and all of that, and like how to really tell if somebody has the skills to meet your needs or the qualities to meet your needs, rather than, just are they like, do they share your interests, or do you have fun with them now, which of course is also important. And so I think I love the analogies you just made, because it's about reprogramming beliefs and it's about teaching the appropriate skills, like how to go slow and pace the relationship rather than jump into it. So
yeah, I think also
like
related to what you shared is knowing yourself and knowing what you want, right? That's one of the things that we work with our clients is getting to those values. Like, what do you value in a relationship? And we're not talking about like, oh, I've got a list of criteria of what I'm looking for, but we're looking for this. Values are our deepest level programming. They're the things that make us feel fulfilled. And so if we're not feeling fulfilled in one of those top 5 is what we teach.
Can I pause you there?
Yeah.
Because it's not just feeling fulfilled. Values are feelings.
Yep.
And so like when she's talking about the list, it's not an itemized list. That's super heady. That's tangible. Like you've got to get underneath it to like, what is the way that you want to feel?
Right.
Because you're going to gravitate toward how you want to feel. Those are your values. And so you get to really quantify what that looks like. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So as an example, right, like we both have growth as one of our top values, both as a life value and in relationships, meaning that when I'm in a relationship, I want to grow with my partner. And even with that, that can look different, right? For one person, if they value growth, it could mean, oh, I just want you to be a cheerleader for me, right? Like, rah, rah, go Mayan, you do you. Or in my case, personally, like I actually want to grow with my partner. So when we do things together, like take courses or read books or, listen to audiobooks, that to me is connection. It's intimacy, it's learning, it's growth, it's all of those things. It's love. So knowing that about ourselves, then like what you said, when we are out there dating, we're able to see whether or not someone else has those shared values or not. So I think to add on to what you shared, Valerie, it's like, it's having a deeper understanding of ourselves as well as the support that we might have gotten. Because I know growing up, I went into dating without really knowing who I was, right? Like I was a young teenager or 20-year-old. And then it's like, oh, wait, now that I've been doing some personal development work, like these are actually the things I really value. And it shows in the way I spend my time. It shows in the way I spend my money and who I spend my time with, right? And so then it was like, oh, wow, like we really don't share values. We do so many different things and we're just not really going the same way. So
yeah.
I think you jumped to something.
Yeah.
I don't think you clarified that was about your previous relationship.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it was pretty obvious because we're talking about how to vet somebody. But
when
no,
I was like young
I think that's really true though, because values are, I mean, that's what John Gottman's research showed, right? That the number one reason why couples break up, according to him, was not having a shared vision for the future, which has to do with our deepest values. And I think couples get attracted to each other without doing that deeper work to clarify shared values. But couples who don't do that deeper work don't stay together in the long term, and once you do, you'll realize, oh, maybe I'm not really compatible with this person in the long term. So it makes sense that that's the work you did in the past, before you met Angus.
Yeah. And I see it in my clients too, where they, like one client, she was like, I don't know why, like on paper, this guy like would be a great match and there's just something missing. And I was like, well, remember your values list, right? Like entrepreneurship and building things and growing things, like that's really important to you because that's who you are. And how you want that expressed is to have someone to share those things with, right? And so somebody may have all these other things that might look good or sound good, but if you're not able to experience that in the relationship, then it's going to feel like something's missing. And you might start thinking, what's wrong with me? Right? Why can't I like this person? Like I'm attracted to them, but there's something still missing. So if we're not aware of what is truly important to us, then we might feel like there's something wrong with us, or, just force ourselves to be in a relationship that might not be right for us.
I'm going to chime in here because I think this is really relevant for a lot of women, because I find that most women have a list of what they're looking for in a man. And Mayan also had that list. I call it the head list, the heart list. And I think it's hilarious because I would never have come across, like if we only had the chance to meet at like an online dating type of a thing.
Like an app. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the dating apps, I would never have made her list because she doesn't have any children of her own. And so she didn't think she wanted a partner who had children. Well, I've got 4. Now, my children are almost all grown, but I would have never made the list. Also, her ex-husband was 5'11". So in her head, she wanted somebody at least that taller.
Right. I'm not going to go backwards.
Right. I'm 5'10" 3/4. So I know size matters, ladies, but 1/4 of an inch, like, come on, like.
Right. No, and of course, like that is why dating apps, I think, can be restricting if you're
Right.
Because then you wouldn't have made the cut. But it's like if you meet in person, you don't even notice.
And this is why I say get out of the head list and into the heart list. How do you want to feel?
Exactly.
And when she realized she wanted to feel like she was taken care of by somebody who was responsible and she felt protected and all these different feelings, then I was a good fit for her. But on paper, it never made her list.
Yeah. And I didn't even realize, someone having kids and having raised 4 kids, right? There's a quality about you that I believe probably came from that, like the responsibility of raising 4 humans, right? It turned you into a caring person, or I don't know what the qualities are. I just know how I feel when I'm with you. But like, I wouldn't have imagined that as being like a benefit of somebody having kids, because that wasn't my world. And so I think, when we have those lists where we keep ourselves restricted and in a box, it doesn't open up the possibility of what else are we looking for? What else could be fulfilling? What else could be great in a relationship?
Yeah. I love that, right? Because I think a lot of times people look at their lists, and even if they are deep qualities that they want to attract in the other person, it's still outside of you. And what really matters in a relationship is not necessarily those qualities, but it matters what that provides for you. Right. Sometimes it is important that we're with somebody, of course, who's responsible, for example, but that's about that I feel really safe and taken care of.
Right.
And that's a strategy for me to feel safe and taken care of. And so I think it's important to keep asking yourself, how do I want to feel? And do I feel that way with this person?
Yeah.
I think, that's the main point that you're making, that you help clients check in with, because it's important to have a list, but then it's important to keep refining it and to have the support to keep refining it with somebody who can help point out your blind spots.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Otherwise we get, stay in our head and we don't know how to analyze it.
Yeah. We have a part of our program that we call due diligence, like due diligence for investing, but due diligence for dating. And that is one of the things, is like you get to surround yourself with either a solid coach or a mentor who's, a couple years ahead of you and in a great relationship, or a friend who's been through some stuff that you actually know and respect their decisions and their relationship. Because if you don't have somebody that you can bring your stuff to and reflect it to, you're looking at everything through your own, I'm going to use another metaphor, through your own grimy fish tank. Like you live in a fish tank and you don't even know that you're in the fish tank, and you don't know how much green has grown on your glass until somebody comes along and scrapes it. Hey,
Yes. Yeah.
this is what the world can look like.
Oh
You
my God,
get
yeah.
to invite a coach, a mentor, a great friend in there to be like, this is you. This is you looking through dirty glass. Let's scrape this off so you can actually see into this situation better. So it's
Yeah.
critical.
I do think that's another good metaphor.
He's great at metaphors.
Yeah, they make it really fun. Yeah, do you have a success story of somebody who identified and fixed their energetic leaks and found their ideal partner, just to bring all of this home?
Yes, so many.
Yeah, which one do you want to? I'm trying to think. What would be the best one?
I mean, I can't say names, but we can go back to the one night stand
Yes.
person and share their win.
Okay, do you want to share
No, go for it.
that?
Yeah,
You know
and
what I'm
I think
talking about,
people
right?
understand
No, I don't know
that,
what you're talking about.
Texas.
I always
Oh.
change people's names when I talk about them. I think that people understand that that's common practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So.
Oh, sure.
Okay, you going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So this relates to the physical leak, right? The energetic leak that comes through our physical spaces. So one of my clients had she had a beautiful home, and like every room, if you look at her house, if you took a tour of her house, was just immaculate, like spectacularly designed. It looked like it could have been out of an HGTV magazine or something like that. And then you go to her bedroom and it's like mismatched sheets and duvet covers. I don't even think she had a duvet cover, but it was rough. It looked like a college guy, bachelorette, something like that. Yeah, like mismatched furniture. And it's like, is this even the same house? Like, what is happening? So when we did the deeper work and dug deeper into why that was going on, for her, every part of, and this is common, and like every other room are public spaces, right? So the living room, dining room, like these are public facing places. So when someone comes to your house, like they're able to see all these things, right? But not most people are going to come to your bedroom, right? And so for her, it was very much like, oh, let me put all this energy into putting like almost like a front, right? Of like, oh, life is great, I'm great. When internally she didn't feel that same level of worthiness and attention for herself. And so she didn't invest the time or the money to actually invest in decorating her room, her bedroom, to reflect that she was worthy of it, because internally she didn't feel that way. And so her marriage was not going well, and it reflected, right? Our bedrooms are a reflection of our love life, because that's where we spend the most time in that area. And so it was no surprise that her bedroom was in that state that it was, and her marriage was also in that state. So we invested in the time to actually look at that, shift her both internal beliefs as well as her external space. And the outcome of the room was just amazing. It matched the rest of their house, and now she's happily married for like 6 years, I think now. So
I have a beautiful daughter.
Yeah.
We had another client who this is more recent, but we were having a conversation. Part of that due diligence process, I recommend dating 3 different people at one time. That way there's no pressure. If one of them goes to you or whatever, you have other people that you're communicating with. It just doesn't put the pressure on that one person or all the anticipation. And she said to me, she's like, 3, I'd be happy if I could just get one guy to pay attention to me. Well, that was another slip, right? Like in her belief system, she doesn't even believe that one person will pay attention to her.
Right.
So in the rest of that session, just one session, we got to the bottom of that, had a major shift. The next session, she already had 3 guys that she was communicating with. And so to go months with can't get anybody to pay attention to me, to then we get to the root of that issue. And in one session, we can break that wide open to where she sees that she does deserve it, to then 2 weeks later have 3 guys she's connecting with and going on dates with. It's absolutely possible to shift these things. when you figure out where that leak is, where the root of that issue is, once you know it, we can absolutely wipe it out. So if you're fighting
Absolutely.
the same things over and over and you're struggling and not getting the results, you can keep trying it on your own, but you can't see your blind spot.
Yep.
Find somebody who can scrape that fish tank for you so that you can actually see clearly and get to the root of it and deal with it. And massive shifts can happen super quickly.
Definitely. Yeah. I do like the fish tank analogy because you don't know what's on the other side of the glass. You think you're looking out and seeing the outside, but maybe you're not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's we all wear the glasses. We all see life through our own dirty lenses, and we don't know until somebody helps us clean them off.
It's true. So I know that you have a 5-day challenge coming up, and when we release this, it's actually going to be in less than a week. So would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah. So our 5-day challenge is called Make Space for Love. And it's really going to hone in on how do we help you make space? Because a lot of the complaints that we hear are, I'm so busy, I don't have time. My schedule is jam packed already. Like, how do I actually fit love in, even though I really want love? And so we look at the different ways where we can create space, whether it's physically in your home or in your schedule, or even in your heart, mentally, right? Like all of the different places that you can start to open up yourself to make space for love.
Yeah. It's a 5-day challenge. It's free. We would love to help. We love love, and we want to help as many people as we can find it. And so we would love to have any of your listeners come on and see if we can help you get to the bottom of that, to clear up the space that is just ready and open for somebody to come in and build something beautiful with.
Yeah, I think both of you are such a beautiful example of a couple who have really done the inner work and, have this exemplary relationship where then you can help other people see their internal blocks. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing what that means and how you help people. And so, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. It's a free challenge. It's coming up in 6 days, I believe, when we release this, right? July 8th, I believe you said. Correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So what I will do is we will put the link to that below. If you're watching this on YouTube, then it'll be below the YouTube video. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, it'll be in the show notes. If you're watching it on my webpage, then I will make the URL to the episode, coachvaleriogreen.com/podcast/Mayan-Angus. So that'll be the URL. And then I will put that on my website. I will put their challenge on there. So if for some reason you can't see the show notes, just go to my website under podcasts and the episode will be right there and you can access it. So I just hope that everybody does check out your challenge, because I love challenges. 5 days is a really, it's enough time to really develop a new habit, but not such a huge commitment that you have an excuse.
Exactly.
You get in this new mindset and this new way of getting out of your blind spots and into a mindset of love is possible. So I love that.
Yeah, such an opportunity to create space for love, but create space for whatever it is. Like if your life is so busy that you're not getting the results that you want, it's time to take a couple days and investigate what do I really want, and what am I willing to do something different to get it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's probably at one's own pace. So
yes,
it's not too challenging, a challenge that's not too challenging. So I definitely encourage people to check it out. And it's just been such a pleasure to have you on the show and to get a feel for your approach. And I think that no matter what, I mean, everybody has blind spots. I know I have my own blind spots. That's why I try not to believe my beliefs if they don't feel good. But obviously we all have them.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to say that, it's one thing to have the right tools. I always tell myself I learn the tools to obviously help others, but then I need those same tools to help myself.
Absolutely.
We're all still working on our own blind spots and we all need support.
Yeah.
So
I believe that even the best coaches have coaches. So like
they should.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, yeah. It's we are not perfect, and we have people in our lives who reflect back to us like, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing." It's like, "Ooh, okay, I get to look at that and I get to deal with it." So it's not about perfection; it's about progress and
Yep.
putting the right people in your corner to support you. And I know that your clients, your audience, like they trust you for that, and I know you do a great job in supporting them. And so, yeah, if somebody is listening that hasn't signed up to work with you or hasn't taken the leap to hire a coach, absolutely, it's a game changer. So, what are you waiting for? You want more of the same results or something better?
Yeah. Do you want to fast track to your results?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many wonderful coaches out there, which is why I like to highlight other people's approach. Because if you're hearing this and you know, resonate with Mayan and Angus, then of course check them out. And the more the merrier, because we all need people to inspire us that true love and true long-term compatibility and fulfillment as possible. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Thanks so much for
Alex.
having us.
Yeah, till next time.
Appreciate
Bye.
you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.